I always live by one way of thinking, and that is worry about the things you can change and try not to worry about the things you cannot change.
Hi, I'm Andre Chandra, founder and CEO of Propelo Media. Leaders rise up in challenging times. In today's Ask an Expert series, we're joined by Dietmar Dutilleux, owner of Omega Mas, a manufacturer of furniture goods based in Indonesia. He has been an expatriate in that country for 30 years, and today he will share his interesting adventure about trying to return home in Indonesia just before a total government lockdown and how COVID has impacted the Asian export market.
Dietmar Dutilleux, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. You're calling from Surabaya, Indonesia, and you've been an expatriate over there for many, many years. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and your company there?
Okay, yes. So I've been an expatriate in Indonesia, Surabaya, Indonesia, for close to 30 years. I came here on a 2-week assignment that clearly snowballed into something longer. I'm in the furniture business, so we own and run a furniture company just outside of Surabaya, Indonesia. And we make custom furniture for hotels, restaurants, projects, and all that. So it's been a journey, but a good one. So definitely happy where I am and happy in what I'm doing.
Right. Well, it's great that I can talk to you with, through technology, with Zoom, with the COVID pandemic going on. Different countries though experience different things. So maybe you can share with us the kind of the ground level perspective on what COVID has impacted Surabaya and Indonesia, where you live.
Definitely the impact is large. And I will not say bad. I mean, of course, this experience is not good, but I always try and see what good things can we get out of it. On the ground here, it varies a lot. Some people are still very unaware and take no precautions. And then you have the other extremes where people take too many precautions, wearing 3 plastic bags over their heads, over their hands anyway, going through the supermarket, and stuff like that. Work-wise, it's of course impacted us a lot. We're an export company. We export to Australia, New Zealand, Europe, also to the States. Most of our customers have halted and even sometimes canceled all their orders. So our export, our production has declined by over 90%. So wow. It's definitely a big challenge. Yeah. I cannot speak about other companies, but for my own, I have to say 90%, if not more, of the workers, of the staff, of the management have been extremely helpful and cooperative in the steps we have to take. Because as you can imagine, with a 90% decrease in sales, we have to take steps. It is not a small change. And especially if we don't know when it's going to start again, that's the biggest problem for us. So we've always been very open with our workers and managers. And it's really paid off, apart from a few. And, we did lose 2 people that were unhappy and decided to leave the company. But overall, the team and the bonds have really come through. And I'm really, it's been a humbling experience in that sense, where we've really pulled together. Other companies will experience it differently. I can only talk about what I see in my place. So it's definitely been a learning experience. On the ground around us, like I said, different people do different things. Some people are still unaware. I went, this is about a week and a half into the Surabaya lockdown, which is not really a lockdown. You're still allowed to go out, but you're supposed to social distance. I went for a big bike ride, almost all to every area in Surabaya, and you can really see the differences, where in some areas there's no change. Almost nobody wears a mask, and then in other areas a lot of people do. So on the ground it varies a lot. and it's interesting to see how people adapt. What I've really opened my eyes to is the different responses from different people, and how a lot of people are trying to, turn this into a little bit of a positive. So that's good.
Right, right. Now, speaking of steps that you mentioned earlier, what were the biggest steps, the biggest decisions that you've made since the outbreak, both personally and business-wise?
Okay, let's start business-wise. Business-wise, with a decrease in production, because we're not allowed to ship, we're not allowed to send to people of 90%, we have had to let some people go. Yeah, we actually kept almost everybody on for the first month, and then we just did stuff at the factory, more maintenance than we would do normally, stuff that we couldn't do when production is full. And during that month, we told everybody, look, we will keep you on for this month. We will probably have to furlough some people for a while, but we will keep your benefits going, and we will make the best out of it. But in this situation, to plan ahead is extremely difficult, because at that time, it seems to be getting better now in most countries. America, Europe, they seem to be having it under control. But at that time, it was still, everybody was still worried it was going to get out of control totally. So we said, as we don't know how long this is going to last for, we will make sure that what you need is met, but we have to reduce expenses. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the response of a lot of people was understanding and cooperation, which is great. On a personal level, not much has changed for me on a personal level. I don't have small kids. My son is at college. My wife is also working. We're both working from home, which was not something we did before. With my son, it's a bit strange, because although he's at college in Holland, which is a 14-hour flight away from here, and with WhatsApp and Zoom and Skype, we can talk whenever we want for as long as we want. So never really felt the distance. But since not being able to go there and he not being able to come here, I and my wife, we miss him more, because otherwise we could always say, we plan to go next month, and we'll be there. We have something to look forward to. Now, it would be very difficult to do that. I mean, there are certain flights, but you would have to go into quarantine on the one end or the other. So it's not as practical and as easy as before. So yeah, that would be one of the bigger changes. Right,
right. So from what I've read, Indonesia is very unique in how they impose lockdowns. To prevent the spread of COVID, they basically closed down transport between cities and between islands. And earlier you told me a story that you're actually one of the last people to leave Jakarta going back home just before the total lockdown. Maybe you can share a story about that.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. We live in Surabaya. That's about close to 1,000 kilometers away from Jakarta. And Jakarta was the first city to go into a lockdown. They have their own terminology here, but effectively it's a bit of a lockdown. But at that point, the lockdown was mainly in slow down the spread and not so much close the borders. So you were still able to go, but you had to watch out and you had to do tests and all that kind of thing. So my wife and I, we said, oh, we're just not going. She normally spends a week per month in Jakarta, so she's there all the time. I sometimes go, but unfortunately we had a family member passing away, so we had to go, and we planned to go just for the funeral. My wife left the day before I did. I accompanied an uncle to go there. When we arrived, about 1.5 hours after I arrived with the uncle, there was an official announcement on the TV saying, Jakarta is, as of 12 o'clock tonight, which was 3 hours later, going on total lockdown. We will cancel all flights, we will cancel all buses, we will cancel all trains, we will cancel all ships, we will close all roads, and you are not allowed to come in or leave Jakarta. We are stepping up the lockdown in about 3.5 hours time. And it will last for 5 weeks. So, we were like, oh, are we really going to stay here for 5 weeks? We have family over there, we could do that. But of course, our work and our responsibilities are 1,000 kilometers away. So we had a quick think about it, and we decided to jump in a car and drive back to Surabaya. And it was interesting. They were taking it really serious at that point, because driving out of the city, which was still allowed because we still had about 3 hours left, there were trucks in several places with huge concrete blocks and cranes ready to put blocks down on the road and physically close the road so cars could not pass anymore. So we just got out in time, and 8-9 hours later we arrived home. So we drove the whole night, and we're able to make it out since then. So that was escaping Jakarta.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that story. Now let's talk about what's after COVID. A lot of people talk about comeback strategies. What signals are you looking for? Maybe this could be very Indonesia or Asia specific, or maybe it's something that other entrepreneurs and CEOs can learn from. What signals are you looking for, and what do you plan on doing first?
Again, for our company, we are definitely, and as of yesterday, we actually closed for 1 week. We have the puasa period over here, where people do not eat and drink from sun up to sundown. And in that first week, normally we've got a lot of people who are getting sick and very, very tired, and do feel it really working on their health. So we decided to close the factory for a week, that first week. And so we reopened yesterday, but our management team was working that whole week, and we have decided to make some substantial changes. We see, this COVID-19 experience, let me call it that, has forced us to really directly do things in different ways, things that we would never have tried or never have experienced or out of necessity. And we see now that there's a number of avenues we have not tried before that are really possible, that work. So different strategies on that end we have started to implement. We are now turning into a more concrete way of working and implementing. And then we have a holiday coming up in about 3 weeks' time. That's when step 2 is going to happen, where we're actually going to revamp the teams that we have also to be a bit more flexible, because we don't know how long this is going to last, of course. And we also don't know, one thing we're preparing for, if somebody would fall sick in our organization, what they sometimes do is the government comes in and then they close, or the local government comes in and they close down your whole work area or factory for a while. So we're preparing for that worst case scenario. If something might happen, what can we do? Because we do see slowly our customers getting back online. Yeah. So effectively, we want to make sure that whatever happens, we keep a core ready to serve our customers, so that when they're online, we can be there for them. Right.
Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to share?
Earlier I mentioned that I always live by one way of thinking, and that is worry about the things you can change and try not to worry about the things you cannot change. Because if you worry about the things you cannot change, it only gets worse. So there are things, I know it's a cliche, there are things that we can work on. Even we did some, at the factory, we did some electricity work that we normally could never do. It's been scheduled for a long time. And I said, look, we're not working for a week, get the team in there. And even these small things we can do. And I do see some changes we can make for the best, that because of this situation, force us to do them and also give us time to do them. So maybe that's my message to everybody. Focus on the things you have under control and that you can change.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, Dietmar, I really
Pleasure.
appreciate the advice and your unique perspective there. Again, I appreciate you being on with me here for the interview. So I wish you the best. I hope this will pass in Indonesia as well, sooner rather than later, and everything goes back to normal.
I'm sure it will. Yeah. And
All right.
hopefully everything else goes back to a better normal again.
Yes, absolutely. All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much also for your time.